Hey warriors, welcome back to Empowerment and Illness. I'm Gwen, your host, your fellow warrior, and your reminder that this is the place where the invisible becomes undeniable, where chronic conditions meet chronic courage, where lived experience is the loudest voice in the room. Today, we're digging into a powerful truth. Your voice is not too small. In fact, your voice is actually what the system fears. It's the very thing they hoped you'll quiet, doubt, or bury under bureaucracy. But when we stop whispering and start rising together, we become impossible to ignore. I watched a video by Robert Rich, a professor and former Secretary of Labor, that featured a clip from A Bug's Life, the animated Pixar Disney movie. And it hit me hard. In the clip, Harper, the grasshopper villain, tells his gang one ant doesn't matter, but hundreds of ants rising together, that's a revolution. That wasn't just a scene in a kid's movie. That was a blueprint. And that, my fellow warriors, is exactly what patient advocacy is all about. Let me be clear. Advocacy isn't just for polished professionals or conference panels. It's for us. It's for the people who waited 6 years for a diagnosis, who was told they were exaggerating, who left appointments feeling unheard. It's for the parents pushing for answers for their children, and for the caregiver balancing medication, symptoms, and emotional labor. We are the ants, and when we stand together, we are a movement. This episode is going to walk us through 4 essential ideas: how the system isolates, why collective power changes everything, how we turn stories into actions, and why the ants and the system can no longer be ignored. This is not just a message. This is a call to organize, a call to rise. Because today, we're not talking about living with illness. We're talking about leading with it. And it starts with one simple question. What if we stop being quiet? At first glance, a single patient's voice might seem insignificant. You may feel like your pain isn't taken seriously, your symptoms are brushed off, or your needs are lost in the sea of paperwork and protocols. It can feel like shouting into a void. It makes you feel like you don't matter. That is not an accident. That is design. Systems like this thrive on keeping us disconnected and exhausted. It's easier to dismiss a lone voice, but we are never truly alone. And the system knows that. Harper in A Bug's Life gets it. You let one ant stand up to us, then all might stand up. That's not just a quote from an animated movie. It's a warning. The real world echoes every day. That line should make every patient, every warrior sit up straighter. That's how fragile these power structures are. They know the minute we connect with each other, their dominance starts to slip. Because power doesn't just come from policy. It comes from people. We expose a system built on silence and start replacing it with one rooted in justice. There are real examples of this. The HIV/AIDS movement in the 80s and 90s. The chronic Lyme community organizing for recognition. The disability justice movement. These didn't start with hospitals or lawmakers. They started with patients, people who were sick, tired, dismissed, and done. They turned their pain into purpose, their story into strategy, and little by little, they started changing the world. The truth is, we don't need permission to matter. We only need each other. One voice might get ignored. 10 voices might get a meeting. 1,000 voices, that gets change. We are the many, and the moment we act like it, the system has to listen. Let's have a real conversation. The healthcare system in many countries wasn't built with the chronically ill in mind. It was designed around acute care, short appointments, fast billing, and performance metrics. It's efficient, but not for us. It's not for healing. It's about output. The faster they get you in and out, the better they look on paper. Compassion is not in the KPI. Patients, predominantly those with complex or invisible illnesses, don't fit neatly into that system. So we get labeled difficult, anxious, non-compliant. And each of those words is a code for this person doesn't follow our script. But maybe we're not meant to, because our lives don't follow a script either. Chronic illness doesn't clock in and out like a 9 to 5. It lives with us, and we deserve a system that does too. When one person files a complaint, it often dies in a file cabinet. But when hundreds do it publicly, strategically, repeatedly, that's a campaign. That's a reckoning. Social media has made that easier. Now we document, we trend, we tag, we name names, we use hashtags like hashtags patients not problems and hashtag medical gaslighting. And we're seeing results. We are slowly shifting from passive recipients of care to active participants. That shift is not just personal. It's cultural. It's collective. It's a return to dignity, and it's shaking the very foundation of how power moves through healthcare. The ants are marching, and they're not waiting for an invitation. Advocacy doesn't require a megaphone or a policy degree. It starts with your story. Your lived experience is the most powerful data the system isn't tracking, but we are. Every misdiagnosis, every delayed treatment, every time you weren't believed, those moments matter. It matters because it doesn't just happen to you. It happens to people every day. And when we collect and share those stories, we expose patterns the system wants to keep hidden. We stop feeling like we're broken and start realizing the system is. Storytelling builds empathy, but strategy builds power. One post online could reach thousands. One blog can change someone's life. One panel discussion can get into the ears of a legislator. But it takes consistency. We can't stop at sharing. We have to organize. That means turning moments into movements, stories into statistics, pain into policy. That's advocacy. We do that by taking small steps, joining advisory councils, creating chronic illness advocacy days, teaching others about the Patient Bill of Rights, testifying at local health boards, hosting support groups. These are not small things. They are the infrastructure of change. And each time we show up, we make it easier for someone else to. You don't have to carry the weight alone. Advocacy is not a solo mission. It's a shared march. And when one of us gets tired, another steps in. That's the beauty of community organizing. We take turns being the voice, the fire, the witness. It's not about being loud. It's about being unified. Sometimes hearing real stories of advocacy in action is what truly inspires the fire within us. This viral hashtag movement, hashtag patients are not faking, it's a chronic illness awareness campaign, was started by chronically ill people across platforms like TikTok and Twitter, or X, to fight medical gaslighting. The stories shared caught the attention of journalists and researchers, leading to articles in major media and influencing medical education curriculum discussions. The author of the book, The Spoon Theory, was created because she told her story about living with lupus and used the metaphor of having a limited number of spoons. She didn't start a nonprofit or launch a campaign. She told her story and it went viral. That single blog post became a global tool for awareness, education, and empowerment. These are not exceptions. These are possibilities. The only difference between someone who sparked change and someone still waiting for it is often one courageous action. So what will your story be? Advocacy can be exhausting, especially when you're managing your own health. That's why sustainable advocacy is essential. First, protect your energy. Choose 1 or 2 causes or platforms you can show up for consistently. You don't have to do everything. You just have to do something well. It's okay to take breaks, to rest, to recalibrate. You're still making a difference. Second, build a toolkit. This can include a list of talking points about your condition, links to reputable resources, templates for emails to doctors or legislators, and even a self-care plan for advocacy burnout. Knowing your boundaries and having a plan helps you advocate from a place of strength, not depletion. Third, find your allies. This could be fellow patients, supportive healthcare professionals, nonprofit organizations, or even influencers using their platforms for good. Aligning with people who share your vision amplifies your impact. Collective advocacy is not just powerful, it's also sustainable because we hold each other up. Lastly, celebrate your wins, big or small. Whether you educate someone, got a policy changed, or simply stood your ground in a doctor's office, honor that moment. Change doesn't just happen in boardrooms. It starts in bedrooms, kitchens, exam rooms, and online forums. It starts with you. One of the most powerful things we can do as advocates is rewrite the narrative society holds about chronic illness. Too often, we are portrayed as weak, needy, or burdensome. That narrative is outdated and damaging. We are resilient, we are resourceful, and we are done being portrayed as helpless victims. Start by reframing how you talk about yourself. You are not just a patient. You are an expert in your own condition. You are a navigator of systems, a researcher, a communicator, a survivor. Language shapes perception, and perception shapes policy. When we change the words, we change the world. Second, challenge the narrative you see around you. Call out harmful stereotypes in media. Share educational content. Tell your truth, even when it shakes. The more we inject reality into the public consciousness, the more pressure we apply to outdated norms. Third, make space for others to rewrite their narrative too. Encourage storytelling in your community. Offer platforms to voices that often go unheard. When everyone's story is welcome, the collective story becomes impossible to ignore. Marinate on that. Let's go back to A Bug's Life. The ants were told what to do. Collect food, don't complain, stay in line. They were made to believe they couldn't survive without the grasshoppers. But the moment that one ant, Flick, asked why, the illusion shattered. That's what advocacy is. It's not rebellion. It's awareness. It's asking the dangerous question. Why are things this way? Patient advocacy is doing just that. We're asking why pain is dismissed, why women and people of color wait longer for diagnosis, why insurance get to determine what care is necessary. And every time we ask why, another crack forms in the system's armor. We are slowly unlearning helplessness, and in its place, we're building collective knowledge. The grasshoppers fear unity because unity changes the game. And that's what patient advocacy is doing across the world. From nonprofit organizations to TikTok creators, from awareness months to chronic illness coalitions, the ants are organizing. And we're not asking for crumbs anymore. We're not grateful for being tolerated. We're demanding access, respect, partnership, equity, and we're demanding it now. So if you've ever felt like your voice didn't matter, hear this. You may feel like a small part of a massive machine, but your courage to speak, to resist, to advocate is the exact thing that keeps the movement alive. You are not powerless. You are part of a growing swarm that is reclaiming space, reclaiming care, and reclaiming dignity. You are not just an ant. You are the spark of a stampede, and we are building a movement around you. I ask you this. What is one moment in your healthcare journey that still sits with you? What would it mean to share that story? Who else might feel less alone because you did? And what's one step you can take this week to turn your experience into action? This is how movements begin, with one act of bravery that inspires another. For our listeners, here's how you can step into your power starting today. Share your story on social media, in a support group, or through your own podcast or blog. Join or start a patient advocacy group. You are not the only one fighting this fight. Educate yourself on patient rights. Knowledge is your armor. And support others. Commit, uplift, amplify. The louder we are together, the harder we are to ignore. Remember, Harper was afraid for a reason. Before we leave, I would like to close with a special portion of the show I call Healing Heartbeats. This is where we allow ourselves to wallow in sorrow. Give yourself 3 minutes to laugh, cry, scream, cuss, or just sit in silence. Whatever you need to do to feel it, do it. Let the depression in for only 3 minutes. Once you reach 3 minutes, compartmentalize it and get back to living. This is a rinse and repeat behavior. You cannot let depression take over, because when it does, it will not let go. When we hear about the passing of someone, they have the day they were born and the day they pass away. There is a dash in the middle. It's not a long line, but a short dash. That dash represents your life. Go live in spite of having a chronic illness. Don't let your condition stop you. You are not too small to matter. You are not too sick to be heard. And you are not too broken to be powerful. Today, we saw what happens when one voice becomes a collective force. We saw that in a system built to silence us, unity is our rebellion. You may be one ant, but together we are a swarm. This isn't just about awareness. It's about momentum. A momentum happens when we rise together, when we stop apologizing for our truth, when we use our pain as a blueprint for progress. Each time you speak up, you add your voice to a wave that is growing louder, stronger, more unstoppable by the day. Let this be a reminder that you don't have to be perfect to make an impact. You don't have to know all the answers to start asking the right questions. The power is already within you. Advocacy starts when we stop whispering and start marching. So speak, even if your voice shakes. Write, even if your hand trembles. Organize, even if you're doing it from bed. You are worthy, you are necessary, and this movement is yours too. Remember, you have the strength, the heart, and the support to continue your journey. Be safe.